Theory of computer science, also called as theory of computation, is one of the most fundamental cores of computer science engineering or IT engineering. Till now, we have studied many subjects like data structures, discrete mathematics, operating systems, database management systems, and many more. What was the concept behind all this subject? All this subject taught us how to solve a problem or define or come up with a solution or logic to solve that problem. Now, when we say solution or logic to solve that problem, it means data structures. In data structures, you came up with algorithms and you write programs. In discrete mathematics, you have steps to solve the problem. Right? In theory of computer science or theory of computations, we'll understand how to design a machine to solve a problem. A problem can be to multiply two numbers, or it can be how we design a machine to find a word in the dictionary. For each of this problem, we can come up with an algorithm that is step-by-step method. There are existing computational devices that solve various problems like calculator, cell phone, and computers. I will understand how to design a machine in this course. The machine will take some input. Based on some conditions and rules, the machine will think and it will decide whether to accept the given input or reject the input. Let's take an example of an electric switch. This is an informal example. We have to find out what would be the position of an electric switch at any given point of time. So let's consider initially the switch is in off state. So I mentioned this, that initially the switch is in off state, right? Only when we push or press the switch, we change into the next state, that is on state, right? If we perform push once again, I move back to off state. So here I can call this as a computational device that performs the task of moving from one state, that is off state, to on state by performing push operation. So I call off and on as my states and push as input operation. Yes. So what we can understand is, initially when I am in off state, when I perform the first push operation, I change it to on state. Next time when I do, that is the second push operation, I move back to off state. The third push operation, I'll move back to on state. Fourth, I move back to fourth operation of push, I move back to off state. So here we have understood that odd number of push operation gives you on state and even number of push operation gives you off state. So if I ask you what would be the position of electric switch at 7th push operation, at 7th push operation, what would be the position or which state I'll be in? So as we said, odd number is giving me on state, odd number of operation is giving me on state, and even is giving me off state, I say that on 7th push operation, I'll be in on state. So this is a very informal example wherein my machine has been designed, wherein I'm moving from one state to the another based on some input, right? Till now we have understood that we'll be designing a machine such that it will take an input, and based on some rules or conditions, the machine will decide whether the input is accepted or rejected. So we begin our course by designing the most simplest computational model or the lowest computational model, that is finite state machine, also called as finite automata. FSM is the building block of this course. Now, why it is called as simplest computational model? The reason one is the limited memory, limited amount of memory. FSM cannot solve complex level of computation. Also, we design FSM with finite set of states. Finite set of states. Finite state machine, also called as FSM or finite automata, also called as FA, are classified into two types: FSM or FA without output, FSM or FA with output. Under the category of FSM without output, they are further classified into three types. First type is deterministic finite automata. Next, non-deterministic finite automata. Epsilon non-deterministic finite automata, also called as epsilon NFA. Under the category of FSM or FA with output, we have two subcategories. One is Moore machine and next is Millet machine. So we'll be studying all of these machines one by one. So before we design FSM, let's first understand certain terms that will be coming across frequently. They are the prerequisites of FSM or FA. So the first term is symbol. Symbols are nothing but special alphabets that we'll be using as inputs in our FSM. They are the basic building block in designing of FSM. So we can take an example as A can be a symbol, B can be a symbol, binary number 0 can be a symbol, 1 can be a symbol, other digit numbers like 2 can be a symbol, 3, and so on. So symbols can be anything which form the alphabet set. Next we have is alphabet set. They are finite set of symbols. So here we'll be having a set inside which we'll be having symbols. So let's suppose if I say a binary set, so it would be having 0, 1. Or I can have a set formed with alphabets A, B. Or I can have a ternary alphabet setting like 0, 1, 2. Right? So alphabet sets are finite set of symbols. Next, string. String is a sequence of symbols from the alphabet set. So if my alphabet set list, let's suppose 0, 1. What are the strings possible? From this alphabet sets we can have 0 has one string, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So all these are called as string. Okay, I can have any combinations of ones and zeros. 0 1 0 1 and so on. So strings are nothing but the symbols that can be combining symbols or sequence of symbols from the alphabet set given. Next we have is length, that is number of symbols in the string. So if my string is 0 0 0, what is the length of the string? It is a number of symbols in the string. So here the length of the string is 3. If I have a string like this, what is the length of the string? Number of symbols are 1 2 3 4 5. So here is a string of length 5. Next we have language. Language is a set of strings over the alphabet set. So let's take an example now. We'll understand the concept of language with few examples. Define language over the alphabet set 0, 1 such that all strings are of length 2. Here I have been given the alphabet set as 0, 1 and I have to find out what are the strings possible of length 2 over this alphabet set. So what are the strings possible? We can have 0 0, 0 1, 1 0, 1 1. So these are the possible strings, right, over the rule, that is length 2 and alphabet set to be 0, 1. So the strings that it can be formed, I put it inside this language. So the language is nothing but set of strings that are possible over the alphabet set given any condition. Now this is a finite set. Next, we'll take one more example. Define language over the alphabet set 0, 1 such that all strings are of length 3. Right? Now the condition is the strings should be of length 3. I have to find out what are the possible strings in the language. So let's start. Language, we know that it is a set of strings over the alphabet set given any condition. So here we can have first string of length 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 0 1 0 1 1 1 1. Right? So in my language I have following strings. So this is also a finite set. Right? Next we'll take one more example. Define a language over the alphabet set A, B such that all strings start with A. Now this is my alphabet set. A and B are nothing but my input symbols. The condition is find out all strings that start with A. So let's define a language. Start with A. I can have A as a string of length 1, AA of length 2, AB, ABA, AAA, ABAB, ABBBB, and so on. So there can be n possible combinations of A's and B's forming up a string. Here our language is infinite. So we have understood two cases wherein the language can be a finite set or a language can be an infinite set depending on the condition. Let's take few more examples. Define language over the alphabet set A, B such that all strings start with AB. So here in my language I'll be having all the strings that start with AB. So here I can have AB, which is my smallest string in the language. Next I have A, B, A, A, B, B, A, B, A, 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 B, 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 and so on. So here I can have any combinations of string. Only condition is I should always start with AB, and this language is also infinite. So the language here is infinite set. One more example we'll take. Define language over the alphabet set 0, 1 such that all strings end with 0. Now the condition is end with 0. So here in my language, I can have 0 as the smallest string, right? It is ending with 0. Then I can have 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, right? 0, 0, 1, 0, and so on. This language is also infinite. So languages are nothing but strings that can be formed over the alphabet set, right? Next example. Define language over the alphabet set 0, 1 such that all strings contain substring 1, 0. Now the condition is the string in the language should contain this substring 1, 0. So let's define a language. We can have 1, 0 as the smallest string in the language. We can have 0, 1, 0 or 0, 1, 0, 0 anywhere. Like it can be the beginning, it can be the end, or it may somewhere in between of the string, right? 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, and so on. So here I can have n combinations of string with condition containing substring 1, 0. So this language is also infinite. Next concept to understand is powers of alphabet set. Powers of alphabet set indicates set of all strings of certain length. So let's start. We'll take examples. We have to find out the powers of alphabet set A, B. Sigma to the power 0 indicates set of all strings of length 0. So here, when I say a string of length 0, this is a special case wherein in my language I'll be having epsilon. I'll be having epsilon indicating a string of length 0. Right? Next, sigma to the power 1 indicates set of all strings of length 1. Right? So here, over the alphabet set A, B, my language will have all the strings of length 1. So here, one string possible is A, another is B. Next, set of all strings of length 2. So sigma to the power 2 indicates set of all strings of length 2. So over the alphabet set, my language will have all the strings of length 2. A, A, B, B, A, B, B. So if I say sigma to the power n, it indicates set of all strings of length n. So n can be any. The next concept is to understand cardinality of alphabet set. Cardinality of sigma is the number of elements in the language set. So let's take an example. We have to find the cardinality of alphabet set 0, 1. Cardinality of sigma to the power 0. This indicates the number of elements in the language set. So here in my language, when I have a case wherein I have to find out a string of length 0, how many elements will be present in the language? It would be just epsilon. As we have already said, epsilon indicates a special symbol wherein epsilon's length is 0. Epsilon indicates it is a string of length 0. So how many elements in this language? It is only one element. Right? So cardinality of sigma to the power 0 is 1. Next, cardinality of sigma to the power 1. This is the string, all the strings of length 1 in my language. So here in my language, I'll be having strings 0, a string of length 1, and alphabet 1 or string 1 of length 1. Yeah, now how many strings in the language, or I can say how many elements in the language? It is 2. Next, cardinality of sigma to the power 2. Here I have to find out the number of strings in the language. It is strings of length 2. So here I can write the possible combinations of strings of length 2, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. And how many strings possible in this language? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the cardinality of sigma to the power 2 is 4. Another way to find out the cardinality of the alphabet set. Here, how many symbols in the alphabet set? We have 2 symbols in the alphabet set, and we have to find out the cardinality of sigma over the power 0. Right? So this is how we get the cardinality. Another method to get the cardinality without actually writing down this strings in the language. Likewise, we'll do it for sigma to the power 1. The number of symbols in the alphabet set is 2, and we need to find out this cardinality sigma to the power 1. Yes. Similarly, I'll mention for sigma to the power 2, number of elements in the alphabet set is 2. I want to find out sigma to the power 2. This indicates the indirectly indicates the number of elements in the, or number of strings in the language. So what would be the cardinality of sigma to the power 3? It would be 2 to the power 3, which is 8. And cardinality of sigma to the power n, 2 to the power n. That's how we find out the cardinality of the alphabet set. We know that finite state machine or finite automata is classified into 2 types. that is FSM or FA without output, FSM or FA with output. So we'll first understand the first category, that is deterministic finite automata. Deterministic finite automata is defined by 5 tuples Q, sigma, Q0, F and delta, where Q is a set of finite states. This set cannot be empty. Sigma is input alphabet set, cannot be empty. This set as well, it cannot be empty. Q0 is initial state, not more than one state, and this set cannot be empty. So here Q0 will be only one state, and a DFA machine should always have Q0 state. F is a set of final states. It can be 0 or more. The set can be empty as well. Delta is the transition function given by this mapping function. Q cross sigma gives Q. Q cross sigma corresponds to Q. Okay. Now we'll understand each of the 5 tuples of DFA. So here I have constructed up a DFA. We'll first understand how do we write these 5 tuples. So when I say Q is a set of finite states. In the diagram over here, so whatever variables I have inside the circle or represented in circle are nothing but my states. So here Q will be having Q0, Q1 and Q2. So next, sigma, that is input alphabet set. So referring the diagram, whatever symbols I see over the edges are nothing but my inputs in my alphabet set. So here I see a self loop or a transition of 1. Here I see from Q0 to Q1 an edge of input or symbol 0. So here I'll be mentioning sigma to be 0, 1. Next, initial state. So whenever we start constructing a DFA, we always begin with initial state, and initial state in the diagram is represented by this arrow, right? So here I'll be every DFA will have only one initial state. So Q0 over here is my initial state. Next, set of final states. So in my DFA, a variable which has got double circle across it is my final state. So here in my diagram I have only one variable represented in double circle, that is Q2. So I mentioned Q2 over here. Next, this is my mapping function or transition function delta, given by Q cross sigma corresponding to Q. So what does it mean? Inside Q I have following states. Inside sigma I have input alphabet set. Also Q corresponding to any of this state. So let's understand this by referring the diagram. Now here Q0, let's write this Q0, which is a part of Q. I have an edge, or I say a transition from Q0 with input 0. Now this is a part of sigma, this is a part of Q, right? Is going where? Is going to another state, that is Q1. So I write is going to state Q1, which is a part of Q set. So this is how I am representing Q cross sigma corresponding to Q. So this is a mapping function. Now let's take one more example. Q0 on 1. So Q0, which is a part of Q, on input, this is a transition or an edge of input 1 is going where? Is going to Q0 itself. Right? So 1 is a part of alphabet set, input alphabet set, and Q0 is a part of Q. So for every state, I will be having this transition function. Now let's understand why this FSM is called as deterministic finite automata. Okay, so here I have constructed a sample DFA. We know that DFA is defined by 5 tuples, that is Q, sigma, Q0, F and delta. So in my set Q, I'll be having the states that is present in the DFA. So here I have Q0, Q1, Q2. Next I have is input alphabet set. So whatever symbols I have over the edges are my alphabet set. Q0 is my initial state, which is represented by an arrow in front. Next, final state. Here I have Q1 as my final state because it is represented in double circle. Now we'll understand why it is called as deterministic finite automata. For an FSM to be deterministic, there are two rules. Rule 1. Every state should respond to all the inputs. So every state should respond to all the inputs, and likewise Q0 should also respond to input 1 and go to another state. Rule 2. Q0 on a particular input, let's say 0, will always go to a state, Q1 or any other state, but Q0 will never have the same transition, that is on the same input will never go to another state. It is not allowed. I'll repeat once again. Q0 will always have a transition of input 0 to a state. It will never have the same transition on the same input to a different state. So if I summarize rule 1, it means every state will respond to all inputs in the alphabet set. That is, Q0 should respond to 0, Q1 should also respond to 1. So when I say respond, it means a transition of input 0, transition of input 1 from Q0. So let's summarize the second rule. A state will respond on a particular input only once. That means Q0 will respond to input 0 only once. So I cannot have a separate transition. Here Q0 responded to input 0 going to state Q1. I cannot have another transition on the same input 0 going to a different state. Right?